have you had a particular sermon prep rhythm or practice that has sustained you over the years? If so, what are some of the rhythms you found most helpful? And what books, films, music have most informed or provoked your imagination in preaching?
Oh, wow. Thank you for such an enormous question. So first on the rhythms, yes. I have tended to always prefer preaching that's sequential, expositional preaching out of various books of the Bible. I do topical series, but I've tended to do it this other way, largely because I want people in my church to go away being equipped with the whole Word of God, which is different than ideas from the Word of God. I want people to actually feel more and more that the Bible is their book, and I want to help make it their book by leading people through those. And I usually decide those at some distance. I might spend a year in advance, not really doing sermon prep, but just reading, rereading, internalizing, so that I have some of the book memorized, and I have the book in outline form in my mind. I can walk through the book narratively, whether it's a didactic book or whether it's a narrative book. I can tell the story of what the book is actually trying to present, right?
Yeah.
And I want to then make that available to the people as I'm preaching. So then it means that as I ultimately break it down into parts and assign texts and begin to develop any given week, first of all, then I come to that moment with a feeling that I've done the long work of preparation. The closer I get, the more I use outside sources to be aware of how other people have read the text, et cetera. But in the end, I'm inviting people into a long conversation with the Bible. And I'm wanting every time I'm preaching to take them further in that. Now I break that up with topical series. I break it up in, all kinds of different ways, but that's the fundamental arc and the sort of pattern. So the longer, the better, the deeper, the freer I am to then not feel Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning panic. It's not because I haven't had those moments. I'm just saying on the whole, that really dissipates because I know what this word and this part of the word actually is about. And then I'm trying to, of course, always work like every preacher at how do I communicate that. In terms of outside resources that have been inspirational to me, I think the arts in general are hugely influential to me. Visual arts, musical arts, so many different kinds of arts. I can't really zero in on any particular thing because my tastes are eclectic and very, very broad. I like things that are angular to my like, for example, as a visual art lover, I like abstract art, and I like it because it's more representational of the world than a lot of representational art, which doesn't actually feel like it's representational of the world. So my dynamic, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is a great example of what is that movie. I think in a way it's a distillation of saying life is always live theater in many dimensions and in many directions. And while the outrageousness of the imagination behind that film is one that may or may not be one that we readily recognize, I think the provocation of that movie is to say, well, maybe it's because you're not paying attention. Maybe your inner world, your intersocial world, et cetera, is actually more like this than you would imagine. And I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. So I'm using that as an example to say, watching a film like that is provocational to me in my empathy, my understanding of what it means to be human, my perception of other people, my readiness to receive other people's social locations. In that case, of course, the layers of Asian culture that particular film brought out, very, very, very important to me, and instructional and playful all at one time, right? So read wide, read deeply. I have authors, there's probably 10 or 15 authors that I read and reread, and I want their books to be my friends, and I want to feel like I'm in ongoing conversation with them.